Hi, my name is Siti Azmi. Today I'll be presenting my project, the Tanggam. Tanggam is one of Malay's important cultures and heritage genre. It is the oldest and earliest Malay timber craft that had been neglected over the years. It was mainly applied in Malay traditional building construction and boat making industry. It works by connecting two small components of a building and combining them to build the main structure of a building. These are the three basic forms of tanggam, which are then derived into few styles and techniques depending on the function and placement on the building. The three base forms are then classified as Group 1, 2, and 3. Group 1 and 2, which are the fully and partial perforated tanggam, mainly applied as a primary and supporting structure. For Group 3 instead, it is non-perforated tanggam that does not directly affect the stability of a building and not carry any heavy load compared to the other group of tanggam. Japanese and Malay architecture both use wood and timber as their main construction material. The difference between these two is Japanese generally system is more complex. This is to make buildings more resilient against the earthquake. While Tanggam for Malay's traditional house specifically, the design is in much more simple and flexible manner so that they can easily set up and uninstall to form a bigger structure or house extension in the future. Besides, that is one of our culture to bring the whole house all together when they move from one place to another so that they won't have to rebuild the house and waste the new material. These are the example of detailed construction for Tanggam. This is the typical type of wood used for Malay's building and boat making industry, which is chengal. It is durable compared to other type of hardwood because of its durability and quality. My precedent study for contemporary application is the climbable pavilion by Kengo Kumar. The pavilion consists of identical wood pieces that have been stacked, twisted, and assembled to create a dynamic structure. I identified that he used a similar jointing as Tanggam technique, which are Tanggam lengkap penjuru rencong and Tanggam scarf. From the installation, I reinterpret the idea and design a structure by layering and overlapping the sticks in a diagonal and vertical orientation. The interlacing experiment was developed. The MDF board was used and laser cut into small pieces with the dimension of 3 cm slot in between 10 cm length. The sticks were then arranged in vertical and diagonal position and connected by using half perforated system instead of waffle to give dimension and depthness for the model. From the previous model making, I learned that the design were in plane, which make it too hard to create a space. The vertical line were added to experiment if it is going to work to create some spaces in between to be appreciated. To study the typical grid used in ornamentation to develop new iteration of interlacing studies since the previous project were designated with no specific rule and position. The original pattern 8, the pattern was modified by extending some lines to make it more dynamic. Figure 8 bottom shows the grid and the pink lines were added. The figure shows the perspective view of how the new interlacing project was developed. The idea is to create some space in between so that the people can use it as a shelter and a canopy. The idea is to design a space that can apply the interlacing study with the Tanggam as the main general system. The boat making workshop has been designated specifically for this project, while Malay traditional house was used as a reference as they both use the same construction technique. The techniques that are used for both house and boat are framing, connections, and also material.
Metaphorically, this quote tells how strong the connection of boat and Malay traditional house.
The example of the Terengganu traditional boats, and here are the steps of how the boat making techniques. And here is the space analysis for the boat making workshop inspired by Kapal Naga Pelangi, where the exhibition or the gallery space on top and the boat structure underneath. The tectonic of boat structure using the linearity and vertical line as the main component develop the space with the basic vernacular of boat form. Here is the perspective view of the boat exhibition area. The yellow colored structure indicated the boat developed the idea from the basic boat structure into decent and workable space to fulfill its purpose, an exhibition for traditional boat making. Here is the sectional perspective of boat exhibition area. And then I developed few form as an options. So option 1, which is the previous one, fulfill the basic requirement of the exhibition area on top and the workshop underneath. However, we need a bigger space for workshop and explore the form of the space. Option 2, we have the design is quite aesthetic compared to the option 1. It was inspired by the form of the canvas on board. However, it lacks of the functional space, too much negative area, need to consider the circulation of how people move within the area and the workable area for workshop. For option 3, it was improved design from option 2. The boat structure in middle is not floating, indicate that there are steps to go to the exhibition area. However, it is still no workable area for workshop. A proper study of a workshop area was done with an of the typical smallest and the biggest boat. Final form and development for a space iteration. There is a two blocks here, which is we have the exhibition area. And here is the conceptual image of how the workshop is being used. They are placed inside between the wall structure, while this boat structure is being used as an open amphitheater. A dying art traditional of boat making. Triggered by the current issue of endangered boat making industry in Pulau Duyung, the idea is to design a community hub where it can be a modern museum and workshop devoted to Pulau Duyung heritage that has been forgotten over the years. The aim of this project is to create an awareness and raise the attention of the society regarding the endangered traditional boat making and tanggam system in industry and the valuable knowledge of traditional boat project. This project will be a community and archive center where they can learn about the Tanggam and traditional boat making simultaneously.
Here is the target user for the building. Terengganu is an east coast state of Peninsular Malaysia that is famous for its traditional of sailor over the years. Pulau Duyung, which is located in Kuala Terengganu, is specifically known for its traditional boat making. These are the general idea of the master plan for the site intervention. As the site is about 38.3 acres, thus the idea is to divide them into small islands. As only one main island is to be built, the building proposal, other islands will be used to plant trees that will be used for the boat making industry, also for the temporary accommodation for the long-term visitors. This way, we can maintain the sustainability of the material while having a clean cycle of material usage without having any wastage. The design had been through many processes to redo and redesign, partially or even as a whole, to make sure that the problems and issues are resolved. The idea generation for the building proposal basically comes from the boat structure of Naga Pelangi. The idea is to design a building form and facade that looks like an unfinished boat structure from afar. Here is the final floor plan where all the problems from iteration plan 1 and 2 had been resolved, especially the workshop area, as that is the main space for this building proposal. This slide shows spaces inside the building proposal and the circulation of the visitors, which the maroon color indicates the boat route, blue color indicates the route for the ground level. The visitor can walk to the workshop and courtyard, then cross over jetty to go to the restaurant and auditorium. The yellow color is indicating the seamless ramp that allows people to walk through the building from lobby to the library with the exhibition along the way up. This slide shows the perspective for the front view of the building proposal. Next is the view of floating market while overlooking the city centre as the background. Then the interior space from the seamless ramp to the workshop, boot gallery and the library. Next is the drying and bending area. Then we have the restaurant. Then we have the exhibition for boot structure area. Then we have Tanggam Courtyard and we have also the rear view of building proposal from Pulau Duyung's village. Then we have the slides for the application of Tanggam in building construction with the level of group 1 to 3. Next is the special study slides, which this is about the new drying and bending mechanism. The timber will be placed inside the drying machine. The boat craftsman has to whirl the wheel to move the machine down and place all the timber inside. After the timber has been seasoned, they can bring down all the timber and place them at the bending area right away so that they can easily be bended. And we also have the roof construction detail. Last but not least, the sustainable strategies of the building proposal. There are 7 main sustainable strategies to ensure that this building's proposal can reduce not only carbon emission but also to reduce unnecessary electricity and gas usage, as this is a community hub, to reduce the bills to pay by the operator or group in charge that might be from the boatcraft organization itself with the help of the state government. With that, I end my presentation. Thank you.